Welcome to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm Pete Mezzetti. My guest this evening is Ray Andrewsen, who's the Executive Director of the Quinnipiac Chamber of Commerce. Sir. Hi, buddy. How are you?
Good to be back with you.
Good to see you. It's been a while.
It has. Yeah, well, last time we were here, I think we had daffodils. Now we
got pumpkins.
We've got pumpkins.
That's right.
That seems to have transcended the seasons.
It did. What's new?
Well, a lot, obviously, since we saw you in the spring with our chamber. It's been a very busy year with two repositioned events, I think, since we last got together. One of them in the spring was the Manufacturing, Technology, and Engineering Fair that we had in cooperation with Quinnipiac University. And we had about 90 booths there from all around the state, a lot of students from all around the state. Chief State Manufacturing Officer Paul Lavoie, he was there as well. And we had probably about 400 attendees. It was a wonderful day of networking in April. And that was an event that we used to do indoors, but at a different venue in a different location. But we moved over to Quinnipiac University. And what was very exciting is we actually waved to the bus that was carrying the now world, or I should say NCAA champion men's hockey team that was leaving from TD Bank as that event was going on April 4th. And of course, 4 days later, they won the national championship.
Oh, wow.
So that was exciting. But also over the summer, aside from our golf tournament or other regular events, we pivoted a new event in North Haven. And as you know, you and I met and talked often about the Clinton Bluefish Festival that happened at one time. Various communities have festivals in their downtown. Brantford has a big jazz festival right on their green, very busy green, their beautiful green in Brantford. And also, we know Deep River is known for its muster every July when all those fife and drum doors comes out. And other communities are doing these kinds of festivals. Hamden, Cheshire has done that. Meriden has a Daffodil Festival. North Haven, and our partner in town, Wallingford, also has its Celebrate Wallingford early October, which draws thousands to downtown Wallingford. North Haven's really never had a festival. So I spoke with First Selectman Mike Frieda and looked at our possibility of hosting something to bring businesses, a business expo, but also a family-friendly Saturday business expo where townspeople from the region can come to the historic North Haven Green, get a little nosh, eat there, get a meatball sub or eggplant parm, or get a taco or clam chowder, walk around, kids zone, music, classic cars. And then business, and we had probably a good 500 people there that day. It was a very busy event for first year, and it rained.
Of course it did.
Because it rained every Saturday this year. So we had to postpone from 1 week. We said rain or shine, but we were looking down the barrel at a tropical storm that might have been coming up with 3 or 4 inches of rain. We said, we're not going to do that to our friends and families. So we kicked it to the 30th, but it was a good first-year event. So we're very proud. The events that we're doing are starting to see a lot of people come out, and it's exciting.
And I'm sure it's a learning experience, so you go back to the drawing board and say, okay, last year this worked, this didn't work, let's tweak this for next year and not do this, but let's do this.
Yeah. Well, we had a lot of raffles, we had a lot of giveaways, and we did have officials from the region who stopped by that day. And we'd like to make it bigger and better. I mean, it was the first year. You have to start somewhere. And every community should have something to celebrate about itself. So we're very happy to be able to do that.
Right. Now, as far as how long have you been executive director?
Well, the Quinnipiac Chamber, I've been executive director now since March of 2021. So about 2.5 years, almost 3 years going on there. And before that, I was with the Greater New Haven Chamber for a little over about a year, almost a year and a quarter. Their membership services director down there. And that hit January 6th, I walk in, my first day of work. In 2020, we all know March 13th, we stood there at our offices, and our president and CEO, Garrett Sheehan, our vice president for marketing and events, Tamika Mill, and myself, were all three of us standing there on that Friday the 13th. How lucky. We knew we had to all go home and quarantine. We said, well, it'll be, we've got our laptops, we can work remotely. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Well, probably about almost 2 years, it seems. Months on end of isolation, quarantine with COVID, and we didn't know we were getting into. And that really changed the map of business, and it really affected a lot of the restaurants, small retailers. There was a lot of pain in 2020, and a little bit carried on over into 2021. But what we're seeing now is a real renaissance of in-person events.
Right.
People want to be together, they want to convene, and they don't always want to be in a little rectangular square. Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, we're living our life as if it's, Hollywood Squares.
Exactly.
I mean, there's Wally Cox, there's Charlie Weaver, there's Paul Lynde to block.
Right, exactly.
It just seems like a never-ending game show if you're on the screen all the time. It's a lot more fun to be together.
Yeah, because that's actually, once the pandemic started, that's how I used to do this.
Yes.
I would be in studio, as you know, and my guest would be through Zoom.
Yes.
So, and did that for a while, and then once they said, they were like, you can have you in studio with one guest, and then it gradually got better and better from there. And it got the job done, but it was no fun doing the show through Zoom. But it was, because you never knew if you never knew if there was going to be a glitch, if something was going to happen in the middle of the show.
Communication was down. It wasn't the same as being in person like this when we're sitting here, with great technicians who know what they're doing.
Right.
And we can look at each other, and we have sort of a body language that sort of corresponds to that. We're not meant to be, and here we are, the irony is we're in a rectangle.
Right, exactly.
Look at us. We're looking at these rectangles all around here that are sort of part of television.
Exactly.
But we know this, and we've been acclimated to television now for about 80 years. Whereas when it comes to interpersonal connection, we're not really quite there with Zoom. It's efficient.
Right.
It has its place. It's great for international or long-distance communications. If you have a family member, say in California or overseas somewhere, Zoom is, any of the Microsoft Teams, WebEx, they're all wonderful for that use.
Right.
But I think if you live in the same town and it's a bright, sunny, 60-degree day, you probably could get together a lot more easily than stay in your house.
Absolutely. Now, as far as, tell us a little bit about the Quinnipiac Chamber of Commerce.
Sure. We have about 450 members. We extend to North Haven and Wallingford as our two core communities. We're affiliated with the Greater New Haven Chamber of Commerce, which is a 15-town regional chamber, sort of a powerhouse chamber with double the membership from our chamber. And they also, the Greater New Haven Chamber has Yale University, some of the big biotech firms, and also, not just Yale, but all the area major universities and community colleges, major manufacturers. Our chamber is a little more Main Street. It's Wallingford, North Haven. It is the North Haven Expo. It's the golf tournament at the Farms, the Women's Achievement Award, which we do this, as we're recording this, we're only a couple of days away from that, where we honor 6 area women for their achievement and leadership in the areas of business and community. And we have an excellent keynote speaker, Dr. Rashida Parks, who is an expert on AI and technology.
Really?
But she will, and with the School of Business at Quinnipiac, she'll be a great speaker, a native of Morocco, very engaging person. And what we try to do with that event is inspire. Our macro events include the Women's Achievement Award, which we do in October. We also, fast forward, do a holiday decorating contest for Window Front, Wallingford and North Haven, coming up in December, and give awards for that. I'll take you through the major event calendar. January, we have the State of the Town address by the Wallingford Mayor. As some of our viewers know, we have a new mayor coming in Wallingford.
That's
following after 40 years. Amazing, 40 years. Mayor Bill Dickinson has elected not to run for re-election again. And there is a challengers this year. And we just had our mayoral forum at Choate, Rosemary Hall, last week, as we're taping this.
How was that?
Late October. Very well attended. There's a lot of interest because there'll be a new mayor in Wallingford. So there's a lot of interest in the mayoral contest. So our government affairs, public policy end supports these kinds of engagements as well. But going back from the January event, in February, First Selectman of North Haven has a State of the Town address. Mike Frieda will be addressing people on development issues then. We have our Manufacturing, Engineering, and Technology Fair coming up in early April, April 9th. That'll be on the Quinnipiac University campus. Anyone's looking for work in manufacturing, learn more about a career in manufacturing. And of course, we have our annual meeting and awards, our business award ceremony in June. Big golf tournament always sells out in August. Our business expo, North Haven Festival and Business Expo on the Green in late September, which is our first year rolling that out. So we're a busy chamber. We have a lot going on, a lot of smaller things I can get into soon too.
Well, let's get into them.
Yeah. So leads groups convening, business leads, looking for leads. We have a small business council lunch every month at area restaurants. We do it in conjunction with the New Haven Chamber. We bring in state officials from DECD, like Anthony was at our last lunch that we did down at Bratzi's in New Haven. We ate very well. And we heard a great presentation on plans to market our state and rebrand our state, which is coming back. If you've been paying attention to all the little rankings, our state's doing better than it was 5 or 10 years ago. We still have some structural issues on taxation, housing, cost of living, but things are getting better here. Job market's pretty strong. So we heard from also Anthony Booth from the CT Booth program from Pursued Lending about small business assistance. We do small business assistance. We have a staff member at the New Haven Chamber who is dedicated to that, Kobe Smith. So we're very robust in that area with our councils, our women in networking events that we do every quarter. We have an event for women to get together, kind of share what's going on in the workplace with a speaker, networking event as well. On those occasions. So we also pay attention to healthcare, life sciences, our biotech business, as you know, and in our area, hospitals and wellness centers are burgeoning. This is a place with a lot of research, actually, right now. HR is changing, human resources, the workplace is changing, it's complex. And I can go on and on. Technology Council, we hosted webinars on AI, artificial intelligence, ChatGPT. Huge interest in AI right now. It's amazing. Maybe you don't have to show up. You can just do AI. We can do the AI SETI show.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and I can go on and on, as you know.
I've seen Anthony. He was on one of the Connecticut talk shows the other day. I mean, seems like a very interesting person.
Yeah, he is, and there's a lot about Connecticut that I think and I don't say this from a upbeat, Pollyanna chamber perspective.
Right.
We have a lot of what I would call accessible diversity.
Okay.
Your studio here is a block away from Long Island Sound. The Atlantic Ocean is at our doorstep. It's gorgeous, absolutely beautiful. You can go up a little bit, a stretch up to Hammonasset State Park, or I should say with Hammonasset River, go up into Killingworth and into Chester and other places like that where there are hills. You can hike. Heard State Park in East Haddam, Gillette Castle. We have this incredible topographical diversity, and coupled with these beautiful historic towns, along with urban centers and culture, along with all sorts of cuisine. I mean, it's remarkable. You just go along shoreline, you can find it too. So it's a state that has a lot on a smaller scale. We don't have Disney World.
No.
Do we want Disney World?
No.
I mean, we don't have mega attractions. We don't have New York City's attractions. We don't have what the Cape has, for example, or the islands. We're not a resort state, although we do have the casinos and we do have the entertainment venues in Eastern Connecticut that are big attractions. But our state tends to be accessible. We tend to be able to get places somewhat quickly, save for the congestion in Fairfield County. And that makes quality of life here very good. We forget that we have just about the best educated workforce of all the 50 states.
Yes.
Very well educated, very well skilled here in Connecticut. A lot of people with master's degrees, PhDs. And what we have to do and concentrate is to make this state more affordable and accessible for young people to stay. Because our cities, like New Haven, that are very vibrant and busy in the downtown, that's a great place for young people to congregate.
Now, as far as the Chamber of Commerce goes, what makes your chamber so unique?
Well, I don't know if we're necessarily unique. I think we're in an era where people aren't joining
Right.
Dues-paying organizations as much, businesses, or even just in their personal lives.
Right.
If you were to find who's going to the Sons of Italy Lodge, who's going to the Polish National Park or something, ethnic places and whatnot, who is going to a synagogue or a church, regular worship. We're finding that that's just a cultural disconnect. We're kind of coming out of a bowling alone era where people tend not to be that civically engaged. Which you see because you're a civic person, you're very engaged with the community.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of sad to see how many people are not that connected in that way. So we're holding our own. I think that's a good thing for us, is that the chamber is stable. We do well with new memberships and ribbon cuttings.
Okay.
We also maintain a lot of the members that are already in our chamber. The problem I think people have is time.
Yeah.
And getting places. And if we were to actually do a survey, I haven't seen this, and I've searched Google and I'm just like trying to find it, that one survey that actually for households calculates work hours per household. Not just what an individual is working, but what the household would be. And if you had children, if you factor in if you have two children who are, say 5, 2 years old, just to throw out some ages, and you had a couple that had work, and you put two 40-hour jobs together, that's 80 hours per work per that household. And if you go back a generation, you may have had one of the two parents, assuming they were parents together, working 40 or 50 hours. So the amount of work has put a stress on the family, which of course has a ripple effect with daycare. Which is a major issue, because we don't have uniform daycare.
No.
So we see in the workforce, there are a lot of challenges for workers. It's not just a matter of healthcare coverage, retirement investment, it's also a matter of infrastructure that supports their capacity to be in the workforce in the first place. So I think we have a lot of things we have to address, a lot of problems that we've inherited over decades. I think in some cases some of our lawmakers and companies are enlightened. They understand this now. Zoom is actually something that's given us a little flexibility to stay at home with kids. But I think we're finding family structure is different. We're in this very complicated era, and I think as a chamber, we're trying to pull people together to understand that what chambers of commerce do is they provide an element of one-on-one trust. When you know somebody, when you see somebody, when they're in the room with you, you tend to want to, or tend to trust them more than if you see them at a distance. And how much do you trust social media? Okay, answer's not much, right?
Not really.
Yeah, I think you don't really know what you're looking at. Is this bot driven? Is my friend really providing me information that's accurate? When you're in person with somebody and you're spending time in a slower space, socializing or engaging, I think you develop trust. And I hope our chambers can bring people together that way, to be together because you will trust people providing services or doing business with you in that kind of an environment.
Now, how many members does the new Greater New Haven Chamber have?
About 850. So combined, we're combined a little over 12,000 members between the two chambers. And a lot of bigger companies you can imagine with the Greater New Haven Chamber. But we do service small business and solopreneurs as well, and nonprofits. And
I saw that you guys also work with Food Share.
We work with a lot of nonprofit organizations. In fact, we have a nonprofit resource council through the Greater New Haven Chamber.
You do?
That works with not just Food Share, but other area nonprofits. Nonprofit community in New Haven is very substantial. A lot of different causes. If you read the list every May where the Community Foundation has their Great Give, there are 528 nonprofits seeking donations last year. 528 with the Greater New Haven Chamber.
Holy cow.
So there are a lot of 501c3, 501c6. The Chamber of Commerce is a nonprofit, a 501c6 status.
Really?
So people forget there are a lot of trade organizations, not-for-profit organizations, universities, colleges, private, they're 501c3 nonprofit organizations.
Hospitals?
501c3 too. I mean, it's a substantial amount of the economy.
All right, let's see if Ray knows this one. What's the difference between a 501c3 and a 501(c)(6)?
Wow. So
Don't tell me 3.
yeah, well, I can give you the funny answer. I can give you the straight answer.
How about both?
So C6 is considered in the classification, which the Chamber of Commerce is.
Okay.
It's considered a dues-derived advocacy organization.
Okay.
So trade unions, assembly, other nonprofits that are engaged in the business of advocacy, assembly, and that require a financial engagement,
Yes.
are a different tax category than a 501c3.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's complicated. I'm not a tax accountant. I should know the answer to that
No.
without having to think about what I'm saying. But
Yeah, right.
The difference is in that.
Oh, okay, so that's probably
Yeah.
the element.
Yeah.
Probably the major difference and the only difference. What else we want to tell people about the chamber?
Well, I think one of the things that I kind of like about it is how social it is. And I go back to those meetings, the business,
Right.
after hours, get yourself a glass of wine, get your crudité, cheese cracker, whatever it is, whatever venue you happen to be in.
Right.
Explore the business that you're at, relax, socialize, talk to people. I enjoy the social part of the
Of
job
course you do.
itself.
Yeah, because you're a social person.
Yeah, and it's kind of fun. I mean, really, I think you can be an introvert and enjoy the chamber.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think you have a lot of ways you can engage with it. The podcasts that we do every other week that we roll out, there are 26 a year. They're 15-minute podcasts highlighting a business or nonprofit organization, and I enjoy, like you do,
Right.
interviewing me. I enjoy interviewing businesses and getting to know more about them and what they do. And I think I've been transformed in this job.
Uh-oh.
You have a family that has food background and other things that you've
Right.
done. In your family, my parents were never business owners. They were
Right.
employees, but I know family members who are proprietors of businesses. I have a tremendous amount of respect. I don't think I didn't have the respect before, but I have more respect now for anyone who has to operate a business,
Oh, yeah.
who has to consider payroll, has to consider overhead, keeping the lights on, the utilities,
Yes.
making sure that you're completely compliant with federal and state laws, OSHA, for example, that your taxes are completely up to date and you're prepared, that you also offer benefits to maintain a decent workforce, whether it's health care.
Right.
You're paying people a decent living wage, so you have a stable organization. I think I can go on and on, Pete. There's a lot that would keep me staring at the ceiling every night if I owned a business.
Exactly.
And things that are out of your control, like COVID. Things that are out of your control, like weather. Things that are out of your control, like, my chef left the skillet on a hot stove overnight, and we had a fire in the kitchen.
Yeah, right?
So we're closed for a few days.
Exactly.
Am I insured? How do I pay my staff?
Right.
How do I reopen?
Yeah.
On what timeline can I have somebody come back and fix the damage? There's a lot that goes into owning and operating a business.
Oh, yeah.
And I found that many business owners are quite caring, want to do well by their community and the staff that helps their company work well and tick. And also find that the leaders in those companies that are the most compassionate, who are aware of not only the weight they carry, but are decent to their employees,
Right.
as well as putting in a good integrity of a good product, they're stable.
Yeah.
It's not any different than other aspects of life. If you carry on those character values into your business, in many cases you can succeed.
Now, so obviously the nonprofit council is a pretty important arm of the chamber.
Yes. Well, there's so many of them. And I think the thing that we forget is that now that we have so many of them, they're like business.
Yep.
Because as we know, Blockbuster doesn't need to open another video store in the corner anymore.
No.
That's gone.
Yeah.
We can think of a whole host of chains and other national brands that are gone. Department stores have completely changed. Kmart's not coming back.
No.
On a large scale. But we also know that there are other types of businesses that have evolved and have been created because capitalism, just business life changes. It's fluid. That's why AI is so important right now, because it could really dramatically change, it will eliminate a few jobs, but also dramatically change how we interact. So I think that if we see what's going on right now in the business world with all this change, I just think change is the constant. Things are going to evolve differently.
Right.
And we don't know. We don't have a big crystal ball 5 or 10 or 15 years down the road what's coming down the pike.
Do you mind sticking around for another segment?
I'll be right here.
Yeah, I will too. We'll be right back.
It was kind of the storm of the century, or the 500-year flood or storm, that by some estimates over 15 inches of rain fell over a 3-day period on June 4th, 5th, and 6th, 1982.
What is pickleball? The sport that has captivated millions with its combination of tennis, badminton, and ping pong can be played 1-on-1 or 2-on-2.
Hi, thanks for joining me. This is September Selectmen's Update.
Hello everyone, Carl Fortuna here again with another monthly update.
Good morning everyone. Today's the Town Council regular meeting, Wednesday, October 4th, 2023 at 8 a.m., Town Hall Green Room.
We will move on to the minutes of September 5th.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm Pete Mezzetti, sitting here with Ray Andrewsen, who's the Executive Director of the Quinnipiac Chamber of Commerce. Welcome back, sir.
Good to be here.
All right, so now we're going to give it a little bit of a spin for this segment.
Yep. Well,
You're going to Q&A Pete Mezzetti.
So it's the holiday season, so Cinderella, unfortunately, it turned into a pumpkin.
Yes.
So I'm your host for the next half hour, okay? So keep in mind that the glass slipper, it's done.
Yes.
So Pete.
Yes, Ray.
It all started at an early age for you.
Yes.
Yes, you were born at an early age.
Yes.
Yep, and then you grew up beyond after that.
Correct.
Good. So, so when you're in television like this, when did it start? What was your first show? When did this all come together for you?
It actually first started many years ago when I was with Comcast in Clinton, and I believe you might remember this when the studios were in Clinton, because you and
Yes.
when you were doing the radio side of things, you and a colleague of yours,
Yes.
who shall remain nameless.
Oh, right, our news director, Greg Little.
Yes, came down, and the studios were at the old Comcast building
Yes.
in Clinton. And the way that the show happened is my mom at the time was on the Board of Selectmen in Clinton. I ran over to drop off my cable bill and knocked on the door. The public access coordinator happened to answer the door. So I gave him the bill, and he's like, come on in for a few minutes. So I was sitting there talking to him. He's like, the town of Clinton doesn't have a public access show. I'm like, okay. So I left, I ran across the street to my meeting. My mom was on the Board of Selectmen. Willie Fritz, who was the first selectman at the time, I was sitting in his office talking to him. I said to him, hey, you know the town of Clinton doesn't have a public access show, right? He walks around his desk, looks at me, shakes my hand, congratulations, it's yours. That was it. And my first show of the Pete Mezzetti show was actually with Willie talking about the town budget, because we had a referendum a couple weeks later to talk about the budget and everything. So my first show was about the town budget for the town of Clinton.
Oh, how about that? Wow. Well, I don't think Jimmy Kimmel or Steve Colbert has the same story.
No.
That didn't happen for them.
No, of course not.
No, they probably graduated.
Yeah, right.
A little bit like that. Well, it's a lot of fun. All the people that you've interviewed over the years. I think that what I'm struck by is how cheerful you are.
I try.
Yeah, you try. Yeah, I guess. I mean, it seems like you're enjoying this whole experience.
Oh, I love this.
I am still struck. I don't know if you are.
What?
I am, and it's an arrogance. And you've been on television doing this for thousands of interviews.
Yeah.
I'm struck by how people clam up in front of a microphone or a camera.
Right.
This is like we're in our living room.
Right.
Your living room looks like this, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah. This is very nice. I guess, it's a nice big screen you've got in your living room. You've got a nice pumpkin here.
Right.
So, and these are orange and white garlic strips.
Yes, exactly.
This is not seasonal pumpkin.
No.
No, this is pumpkin swag. This is
Exactly.
So, okay, so you're hanging garlic up in the
So
studio.
we should be making spaghetti sauce.
Yeah. So, I mean,
right.
are you worried about vampires since we're so close to Halloween?
Halloween? Nah, not really.
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, when the lights come on, vampires don't exactly.
Yeah.
They're the worst interview when you have all these lights.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. I mean, what do they ever say? They just.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's terrible. So, what do you like about Halloween?
Believe it or not.
Have you ever been asked this question in your life?
No, I haven't.
Well, now it's the first.
Well, then there you go.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, just being out and seeing everybody all dressed up and
Yeah.
all the costumes, because everything's a little bit creative. So now.
Well, the kids don't get out as much. You don't see as many trick or treaters.
No, sometimes we actually have one or two trick or treaters in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's none. Usually, what my dad will do is he will pull out of the garage the portable fire pit. So him and I will sit in the driveway with the fire pit lit.
And the kids are coming.
And the kids are coming.
Oh, that's nice.
Having a couple adult libations, shall we say.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Well, there you go.
Yes.
Smoke Manhattan or something. That sounds like a grand old time.
Oh, it is a grand old time, except if it's cold or it's rainy.
Yeah, I kind of.
And we still do it.
Well, in North Haven, we live on a cul-de-sac off a fairly busy two-lane road.
Yeah, so do we.
So, yeah, and it's unfortunate we don't have children, so we don't really have anybody or traffic coming through. And I kind of miss the trick-or-treat bell, where we lived in Hamden. We used to get trick-or-treaters, and our kids and our children used to go out all the time. Yeah. So, it's too bad that that's another sort of rite of passage where you don't get as many little kids or trick-or-treaters, But then again, you don't have mischief night.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's something that on October 30th wasn't something a lot of police departments will look forward to. The kids wreaking havoc. Well, that's a great holiday, and I think of this part of the country. I think of autumn, and the leaves are beautiful right now. And it just is so pretty, and the air is crisp right here, being by Long Island Sound.
Right.
And you're a native of this New Haven shoreline corridor.
Yes.
So do you have special memories, that you command that go back for the fall and the autumn, for October and November?
I would say just growing up on the shoreline, because I was not born in Connecticut.
Yes, I recall that.
I was born in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And then we moved up to here when I was 3 because my dad got a job. That my mom and dad went down in a VW bus to Florida with my brother, my sister, my mom, my dad, and a dog. And then they came back with +1. And the +1 was me.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, it's you don't really have autumn in Florida. It's a very different kind
And you don't have
experience.
snow.
You don't have anything that really sort of calls this time of the year and all the charm. Right. I would not enjoy that. I mean, I think missing the seasons would be something that I would rue. There's a SAT word I haven't used in a while. I would be very sad if I couldn't see the leaves turn or feel the difference, smoke in the fireplace.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of a, and I think when I look back, I mean, it's the high school football rivalries.
Oh, yeah.
And turkey, and just I love Thanksgiving. It's my favorite holiday.
Me too.
Yeah, really is great. Good excuse to eat a lot of food. And really good food.
And get
too.
away with it.
And get away with
That's
it.
right.
Just enjoy it. It's like you're
That's
supposed to, on cue. But we alluded to this earlier about sort of congregating and people being together.
Right.
And doing things with themes. We see fewer and fewer trick-or-treaters. We see fewer and fewer people joining organizations.
Yeah.
How do we change this? How do we bring people back together? And you've done this now for decades.
Oh, God.
How do you bring a community of people back together to celebrate, to socialize, to do festivals? And I'm just curious, what do you think?
I think what you got to do is get the word out and tell them all to. It's time to come out and recongregate with everybody, and because it's always good to see people.
Yeah.
It's always good to get out and.
Well, you've interviewed guests here on the state level, as well as the small community.
Right.
But you're in a community doing community television, and yet you're bringing in people with a statewide audience.
Right.
So you've had some fairly heavy hitters, people we know that are on the national stage. People are aware of who they are.
Right.
In this little studio.
That's right.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, Congressman Joe Courtney will be here sooner than later.
Yeah. Right. So there's somebody on the national stage right there. Well, I'm curious what he thinks about what's going on in Washington right now, which is
it's going to be a very interesting, when I have him on, it's going to be a very interesting show.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially what's going on in Washington, but not only what's going on in Washington, what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
There's.
Well, don't you find, I mean, what I like about living in Connecticut, and another thing I consider, is that our politics here tend to be softer.
Yeah.
We tend to have, softer, somewhat conservative Democrats, more moderate to liberal Republicans.
Right.
We don't have a lot of the far edges. I mean, we have activists, we have strong people, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But historically, we've had Alec Grosso, Bob Gimo, we've had moderate politicians. Then on the other side, we had Lowell Weicker.
Yeah.
There was Joe Lieberman. You could almost juxtapose their views from each party. So it was like there's a lot more centrist. People are sort of more in the center of things here. I argued that's probably why Connecticut is a fairly safe place to live.
Yes.
Low crime rates, to a degree, good civic trust, engagement, civic pride, which we certainly hope continues.
Right.
I just think that's characteristic of a place where the middle kind of holds.
Right.
People don't look and say, you're one political party,
Right.
so therefore I've already figured you all out. No.
Exactly. No.
Kind of know the people a little more
Can't
complex.
do that. Now, I saw recently that former Governor Lowell Weicker passed away not long ago.
That's right, yeah. He lived out in this area. So he was living, I think,
really?
I want to say in Essex or East Hampton.
Okay, somewhere.
Old Lyme, I think. I'm sorry. Lyme or Old Lyme.
Somewhere on the Charlotte.
Yeah, Lower Connecticut River Valley area, even though he's from Greenwich originally. And he lived in Mystic for a period of time, I think, too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so this is, I shouldn't say this as a chamber chief of Wallingford and North Haven.
Right.
But I've always loved, Litchfield County is very lovely, but the Lower Connecticut River Valley,
Yes.
is just the meandering river and the towns that you have here, that you represent with this program. That's just a gorgeous area. We're just so blessed to have these charming, beautiful roads and historic villages that other parts of the country don't have.
Exactly.
We've got it here.
Right. Now, one thing I didn't ask you when we were talking in the first segment, and you probably know this as well as I do, I've met him, I think, once in my life. What type of guy is Mike Frieda like? I've met him, I think, once.
Yeah, well, the first time I went to North Haven, well, Mike is blessed with being a real compassionate, empathetic person who also completely understands management and business.
All right.
Now, you would think, oh, well, of course, if you're really good at management and business, I guess you can't be compassionate and empathetic.
Yeah, right.
Well, obviously, that's not true.
No.
He's a caring person. He's hugely popular in the community.
Yes.
And, what's interesting is with Mike, He'll still get out there and try to play baseball. He plays baseball.
Oh, really?
I won't give away his age, but he's an athlete. He works out every morning like a crazy person, like he must do CrossFit.
Oh, okay.
He is jacked. I mean, he is a very strong man, and he loves it. He loves the discipline of that. He's very focused. He's very responsive.
Okay.
He has seen a lot of elected officials, unfortunately.
Hide?
I wouldn't say they hide. I think they are maybe more introverted or maybe less connecting.
Okay.
They don't feel perhaps the need to have that kind of engagement with people. You know, Mike on social media wishes people happy birthday, happy anniversary.
Yeah.
He shows up at wakes and funerals. You know, he is just very engaged and with all the civic groups in town. And I would argue that we're very blessed, and this is where I would state the case, as I was saying, for sort of not being partisan, regardless of where you draw your political stripe, is that the person counts on the local level.
Oh, yeah.
Even more than the ideology in a lot of cases. It's the character of the individual, the leadership skills, how they work with others, how welcoming they are, and I think that's so very vital when you're creating a community, you know, and serving people.
Right. Now, you and I have known each other for many, many years.
Yeah.
And obviously, me doing what I'm doing, you used to do the same thing.
Yeah, in a different way.
For a while. How important is it for, obviously, me to do what I'm doing and to get out into the community, and what does getting out to the community mean to you?
Oh, great question. Well, for me, it's engagement and support. You know, and I think for me, I mean, I serve on a lot of boards, and I don't do this because I'm padding my resume.
No.
I'm doing it because I care about the actual mission and the work.
Right.
So for me, I can't understand in this land of plenty, I can't understand systemic poverty. And I know people have substance abuse issues. I know that they may have mental health issues. And mental health, by the way, is also something that I feel quite passionate about, you know, bringing an awareness to that. So I think if you're engaged to sort of help and be a support system for issues that are very important to you, and I'm a very strong, full-throated advocate of diversity, and I would say of affirmation of people. People are complex. They're not going to change.
No.
And, you know, their identities, their backgrounds, whatever makes them up. And I think if we were all honest with each other, we're all complex. There's a lot to us that isn't just one thing or another. If we had that kind of culture of acceptance of people, you know, and actually joy, to see everybody, even if they're quite different from you, as an opportunity for joy. Right. So I think, to me, that's just being a person who loves Main Street. You know, just loves interacting with people. And a lot of people are afraid and struggling right now. They're scared. They're anxious. And even pre-COVID, this was starting. They're angry.
Yeah.
You know, and over nothing. You know, the more when you talk to somebody, it's like, all right, I can see your point. I don't quite understand why you need to, like, smash windows to get your point across. But yeah, the anger is interesting. I'm not a very angry person, so I don't understand it a lot.
No,
I have
me
to
either.
sort of, don't you find that it's kind of tough to fathom? Yeah.
Sure.
And it seems quite destructive, but I don't think I really feel like, I sort of feel like I understand Will Rogers. I don't think I've met a person I don't, in some capacity, like.
Right.
Even people I mostly don't like, I still find something about them I like.
Exactly.
I can probe a little bit.
Right.
And I wish we could create communities where we just saw the joy in each other.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. This is a point in time because of what's going on in the Middle East, which is heartbreaking.
Yes.
And my church, which is on the Hamden, North Haven border, there's a synagogue across the street.
Okay.
They have armed guards. So cross to worship because of bomb threats and hate messages and emails. A lot of synagogues and Jewish community centers are experiencing that right now.
Right.
And mosques where Muslims gather are receiving the same and require extra security, which comes out of pocket
Right.
for those places. It's not how we should be living.
No.
So I would command people to be kinder and gentler.
Yeah.
You'll feel better. And be more forgiving.
Right.
Understanding how frail we are.
Right.
So, yeah. That doesn't sound like somebody who works at the Chamber of Commerce. We
No.
take care of business. As I say in our chamber, it's not like we just don't take care of business. We take care of people.
Of course you do.
Because people are what run business.
Right. Right.
Unless you're AI and,
Yeah, right. No.
A bot or some chat GPT freak.
Exactly. Not me.
Yeah. So now that you've been doing this and you see all this new technology, you didn't start when this was black and white
No.
television.
No.
You don't have a kinescope in here, do you?
No.
Oh, good. All right. So it's pre-digital, though. So it's
Yes.
analog television.
Right.
Are you surprised when you look at this beautiful digital screen and you think back 20 years ago, 25 years ago, and most of the content was analog?
Oh,
It
absolutely.
was sort of blurry.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's like watching the Golden Girls thinking, you have glaucoma or something.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you can't really see the screen as well. Now it's just the technology is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've seen a lot of technological changes.
I have. It was actually, it's a lot. Everything is, as you know, everything here is state of the art as far as the equipment and all the other.
Yeah. Great staff.
Yeah, absolutely. Staff is the best. Everybody's all so helpful and welcoming. If you have a question, an issue, a concern, everybody's.
So if this is community, and we start here, this is community television. I guess
Yeah.
one of the best places to start with community is right here.
Sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's.
I've been doing this for a couple decades. As a matter of fact, last year we celebrated show number 500, and Dennis House came down.
Yes. Which I think is awesome.
Yeah,
And he gets it. And he's somebody who understands the power of television.
oh yeah. He's such a nice guy.
Yeah, I think, and I think that TV doesn't necessarily isolate us. I mean, if we
No.
watch too much of it, yes.
Right.
But I think you're gleaning and you're getting something out of this conversation.
Right.
That if you can't just knock on all your neighbors' doors.
No.
Ask for a cup of sugar, or something to borrow out of,
Yeah. Right.
borrow a screwdriver or, a saw or something. I mean, you can have those conversations, but meaningful conversations can be electronic like this,
Right.
which supplement and give other inspiration ideas to people who are in private conversations.
Right. And the funny thing is there are all sorts of different community type organizations like this that get the word out. There's
Yeah.
community TV stations, there's community radio stations out there.
Yeah.
I can think of one in particular in New Haven.
Yeah. Well, you're on actually something that Paul Bass, who's
Yes.
obviously is the editor for the New Haven Independent,
Right.
has that wonderful radio station that you're on.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, and that's community right there.
It is.
Yeah, it's your neighbors talking. So I've often been bothered. I have a baritone. I understand. I'm self-aware. But I've been bothered when someone says, "You have a radio voice," and then I'd love to just turn around and say, "You have a radio voice."
Exactly.
When did it become the prerogative of just someone who sounds like and looks like and talks like me to have a radio voice? I mean, really, come on now.
Yeah, right?
That's old. That's pretty old school. I love hearing the diversity of voices.
Yeah.
Everyone has a radio voice.
Right.
And everybody can be on television, be in community like this.
Yeah.
There's no one blocking you from coming on the Pete Mezzetti show.
No.
And you just have a time limit. That's the one thing you have. But community television, you can get engaged with this.
Right.
Get your word out. I think when you see your neighbor and you talk to your neighbor, you take down the fence a little bit more. Mm-hmm. It's nice. I think I said something very profound. I got you quiet there for a second.
I think you did. I got nothing to say. Oh my God.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
You're turning me into a rabbi or a minister.
I am turning you into a rabbi.
Father
or a
Andrewsen hour
yeah.
or something. That's
no kidding. Now, as far as your radio career, when you had one, when did?
Well, mine started in 1986. I was 26 years old. I went to school to be a broadcaster.
Okay.
So I was very inspired by radio stations. That was kind of my community growing up, listening to my desktop radio. My father's Grundig all around the house.
Right.
And I would, love rock and roll, love, all the music, Motown, everything.
Right.
Later disco. I'd listen to stations in New York, New Haven, Hartford. I love radio.
Yeah.
It was a great companion. And the jocks and the people around the air were just very funny, very clever. Some of them were not.
No.
Mountains of sounds or mighty stacks of wax. Like, oh my goodness, how did this medium survive with actually talk like that on the radio? It's pretty awful.
Right.
But I learned from that entertainment and making people feel happy is a good thing. And I think, much of our culture requires that. We need people who are the entertainers, make us laugh, sing to us.
Right.
Have lyrics that kind of hit us and have meaningful, imprint on our lives. So for me, radio was just a faraway place. Plus, listening to baseball games,
right.
Was a big thing for me. So it was a great escape. I remember, interestingly enough, we don't think always that President Nixon was our most eloquent president.
Yes.
But in 1968, when he was given his acceptance speech, he made this wonderful, really beautiful image of lying in bed as a young boy and listening to the train whistle on all the trains in California, near his home in Whittier in Southern California. And he would dream about faraway places.
Okay.
And with my radio at night, with AM and distance listening, and you could hear stations from Buffalo and Boston and Baltimore and Cleveland and Chicago and Fort Wayne, Indiana, and Louisville, Kentucky, and Cincinnati. All these other radio stations I could pick up at night with all the distance drift. I would sort of dream as a child, think about all these other neat cities, all these other parts of the United States.
Right.
Of course, you don't have to distance listen anymore. You can stream anything from around the world.
Right.
And there are apps where you can listen to literally anything in radio stations from all the continents. I wouldn't even be surprised the penguins in Antarctica have a station.
Exactly.
So you can dream about other faraway places now by Googling it and finding it and getting it instantly.
Yes.
I had to sort of struggle to get that, but it was the same kind of dream, I think, of opening up a whole vista in a new world.
Okay.
And the world is smaller because of our communications now. So maybe a little less romance to think of a faraway place. But I still find the rest of the world interesting now, not just the United States. It's a very complex planet with lots of beauty and lots of struggle. And I enjoy listening to other radio programs from other countries now. In Canada, BBC. I'm a BBC fanatic.
Yes.
I just find that interesting, but also Australia. And I try to practice other languages, French, German, Spanish, whenever I can listen. But also it's kind of wonderful if you can listen to a radio, a program from Mali or Thailand or some other parts around the world. You don't necessarily have to understand the language, but you get the energy from the program, the music and the talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. People want to be heard.
Obviously, things have changed. So that's
and it's remarkable what you've done here with your 500 plus programs.
Well, thank you. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Somebody actually asked me, they were like, when are you going to stop? When are you going to stop doing your show? I'm like, I'm going to stop doing my show when I can't put a sentence together. Which might be next week, but you never never know.
Somebody said if you're having trouble putting sentences together, just make sure you become very fond of commas.
Yes.
You can just pause and think, or semicolons. Yeah, I think that's true. It's very difficult to do something for year in, year in, and year out. I mean, it's very difficult to keep an audience, as you know, but you've kept one for decades.
Oh, yeah, it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun, a lot of work. Everybody, all my guests are great. My crew's great here. Everybody's just welcoming. And
it is. Yeah, I look forward to it.
Absolutely. I look forward to you coming down. Well, we're about to say goodnight, but before we do, I want to thank you for coming down.
I am glad to be here, as always, Pete.
Thank you, my friend.
Yeah, you bet.
We'll see you soon.
See you soon.
All right. On behalf of Ray Andrewsen, I'm Pete Mezzetti. Thanks, good night. We'll see you next time.